Alrighty, hello, my name is Mary Macon and I am an English 201 in Professor Dorina's class, and for my topic I am discussing the fast fashion industry. So there have been a variety of recent studies that have sort of researched and have looked into the adverse effects that fast fashion has on the economy, the environment, and the people involved in the front and the back line, and also the consumers being us. So for example, brands such as Forever 21, Romwe, Zara, Boho, etc., if you've ever heard of those, have sort of infiltrated the popular mainstream media and have been very popular among the younger on-trend generation. And given that, they seem like a perfect deal because the clothing items are often cheap and the shipping is relatively fast. But however, this does come with a price, and that price is often overlooked by a lot of people, or to the main public, not even known or discussed. So the reason that this issue is sort of prevalent now is because fast fashion industries are such a large source of income for the US, and they're just on the rise and getting more and more popular. Personally, I have fallen victim to purchasing from fast fashion industries. You know, as a broke college student, when you're scrolling through Instagram and you see a cute shirt that's like, oh, I saw that on Kendall Jenner last week, and you know, you have like maybe $100 max in your bank account and it gets there in 2 days, you're like, oh sweet, like you don't even really think about it. But yeah, there's a lot of adverse effects for the environment and the waste that is produced, and the people that are in the front and the back line are often mistreated as far as like physical, mentally, financially, and even like surveillance cameras used in the front line are a problem. But yeah, I'll get into that. And so fellow researchers from BioMed Central and the main one named Dr. Claudio have actually studied the fast fashion industries and have sort of found out that they are about 10% of the entire world's water consumption, which is kind of insane, and it's only getting bigger as more items are being ordered, the demand's increasing, and more clothes are being produced. Alrighty, so to get into sort of the economic and environmental aspects of fast fashion and how it sort of affects those things, a study conducted by a woman named Petra actually focused on how the relationship between consumerism affected the economy. And she found that although fast fashion has a very positive impact on the economy initially, over time that would not really be the case, and in turn it kind of affects the environment negatively, obviously. So fast fashion has become a novelty, and the commercialization in the marketing has led to excessive consumption and materialism. So there's a lot more people purchasing from these items, and partially this has to do with the rise in popularity of social media and how easy that these brands are able to reach out to people, and the demographic that they are reaching to being younger teens, constantly on their phones, broke college students. So, you know, it just works out, and that's how they kind of get their business and keep things going. So consumer opinion causes an increase in the low-cost consumption and purchase of overseas supplies. So as more of these materials are being bought and purchased by consumers, it's actually cheaper for these companies to order from overseas. Now, they often order from third world countries where the textile industries are located. Okay, so let's get into how exactly this affects people on the back line. So typically the people that work in the back line are underage children and minorities, so, you know, women and children. They're often paid less than $2 an hour, and they're forced to work in hazardous conditions. So there's a lot of dangerous electrical setups, lack of ventilation, musculoskeletal pain, a lot of mental stress, light exposure, you know, electrical exposure, just a lot of terrible, unethical treatments that they face on a daily basis. And although there have sort of been slight attempts to improve their work environments, they have just proven to fail, and these unethical work environments are still present to this day. So going off of this research, a fast fashion sweatshop in Bangladesh was researched by a woman named Madison Van Ogort, and she stated that over 50% of employees on a 12-hour shift actually suffer from exhaustion and eye strain. And they also, the frontline workers also experience a lot of mistreatment with surveillance, which is a topic that is kind of taboo to the subject. There are often people on the front line that are mistreated too, not nearly as badly, but these people that are actually in the physical stores are often mistreated through the use of surveillance and biometric data collectors, such as fingerprints and facial recognition, are actually proven to invade a lot of their privacy, causing a lot of different types of depression, anxiety, and they actually catalyze inequality in the work environment. And a lot of these surveillance cameras actually target people of color and are often used in court cases to see if people are here illegally. So there have been a lot of different cases about that and about if that is ethical, because the way that they use them is not really just for surveillance. There's a lot that goes into it, and it's a big problem in the front line as well. Right, so solutions such as, trying to make these factories a little bit better, even though they're absolutely bogusly unethical, have been sort of implemented, but they have failed. And also, as far as the environment goes, converting to more sustainable materials, but it's really difficult when you're producing things at that large of a scale, and these brands, they really don't care about being ethical as much as they do with the income. So, there's that. So, a possible solution to keep the population straying from this has been thrift shopping, and that's kind of getting more popular among people. But as the middle class shops at thrift stores more, the actual value of the clothing will go up. So people that actually do sort of rely on these thrift stores for low price clothing can't afford them anymore. So there's also sort of that argument that goes with it as well. Alrighty, so we've sort of already gone and discussed the consequences that come with fast fashion and sort of why it is such an issue to not only the United States, but the entire world as a whole, ranging from, the people in the production in the back line that don't get paid enough. They're often suffering from eye strain, exhaustion, back pain, they're malnourished. They are also exposed to a lot of different dangerous types of like electricity and different types of chemicals that are found in the textile industries. And also the environmental impacts that these fast fashion industries have on the entire world. It sort of impacts a lot of different people as a whole in a very negative way. So with all that being said, it's sort of like, well, where do we go from here? What are some ways that we can help combat this issue and make, the world a better place, and we can have a much healthier way of production and consumption and a much more ethical closet. So I reached out to Secondskin Vintage here in Wilmington. How long have you been here?
6 years.
Awesome. And the entire shop is sort of based on straying away from buying from these fast fashion industries, and it's a fantastic alternative. I was actually in there today and I was able to speak to the woman, and she was telling me how, thrift shopping is also a great alternative, but it's sort of like a good first step, because in the long run, only about 20% of the clothes that get donated to these thrift shops like Goodwill are actually put out to sell. So there's a lot of clothes in thrift stores that are still, thrown away. And, a lot of the clothes that are bought from fast fashion industries are just kind of tossed in there. So it's not really as sustainable as people think that it is. You know, it's a great first step. It's still, but it's not as good as just like shopping vintage, which is what the entire store is about. So basically, it's about using what is already there, you know, like how can we use these materials? They have a lot of information provided about fast fashion and sort of like how they got into the business and why more people should, you know, look to actually purchasing vintage clothes. Like a lot of the clothes that we buy today that are really on trend, like as you can see, like in social media and in the mall too, on mannequins, like high-waisted jeans are coming back, but like those were like years ago. Like all these old fashion trends are resurfacing, and it's all based on the original designs of like vintage fashion designers. So it's like, why are we paying like we're paying like expensive amounts to buy these hip on-trend clothes that are honestly designed to break. You know, vintage clothing, they were designed to be worn for a really long time, and they were designed to be like tailored and fixed if something happened to them. But these new clothes, they are designed to fall apart, so that way you have to buy more. So basically, there's a lot of reasons why you should ditch fast fashion. Like I already discussed, it's cheap, it's designed to fall apart. There's a lot of textile waste that comes as a consequence of this. It exploits a lot of garment workers that are in the front and the back line. It's harmful, and it's often deadly to a lot of animals and a lot of marine life in the ocean. And they copy a lot of designers, like I was saying. It kind of, they're stealing from the idea of the original vintage designers, and it sort of creates this almost throwaway mentality to where, you know, we're so fast, just buy stuff, once it breaks, throw it, we'll buy a new one, and that's kind of how they get you know what I mean? So what is sustainable shopping? You know, it's buying less, it's buying higher quality, and it's using what already is there. You know, we always say the term like reduce, reuse, recycle for like recyclable materials and stuff, but the same premise can be applied to fashion and the clothes that we wear. So instead of buying like 10 low quality items, like why not just spend the money all at one time and buy clothing that is gonna last for a really long time? See, a lot of people are like, oh, well, vintage clothing is so expensive, but like how much are you spending at the thrift store every month and on all these name brand clothes that are just gonna break? Like that adds up way more to me than the initial cost that it would cost you to buy just like the OG vintage item, you know what I mean? So yeah, so save your money, buy a high quality item. So all things considered, overall, it can be seen through the research and the examples provided that fast fashion itself is a huge rising issue that needs to be addressed. The environment is being destroyed. Although the economy is initially positively affected, there are a lot of people that are at risk because of this type of production. You know, these workers are forced to choose between their health and a livelihood, and it's extremely unethical and something that needs to be brought to an end. And it's often not seen as a problem by industries and is typically swept under the rug, as it brings in a big source of income, and unfortunately that is an important factor in a lot of businesses, especially within the US. And there have been some efforts to combat these injustices environmentally and ethically with the people, but a lot of them have failed. So as possible solutions, we can look towards thrift shopping as a first step, but vintage shopping has proven to be the most effective and least adverse solution, as you're working with what's there. You know, you're buying less and you're buying better quality. So given all this information, it can be seen that this is a serious problem that needs to be addressed, but it is not something that is impossible. And I think that bringing more awareness to this topic could possibly bring a lot of good change to the environment and the people that are working in these third world countries, and also here in the US in the front line as well. So, thank you.